He spiked the wine? Everyone looked at Dylan in shock. If that was the case, then it would make sense for Dustin to refuse the drink. What nonsense. Dylan had a sinking feeling, but he forced himself to appear composed as he roared, "Do you know who I am? Why would I spike your drink? You're dragging my reputation through the mud." He had no idea how Dustin could tell that the wine had been spiked, but there was no way he was going to admit to doing it. "That's right. My cousin offered you a drink, and you not only turned him down, but you even accused him of such dirty tricks. You truly are cunning." Kate feigned anger. I think someone's just here to cause trouble. What a heinous crime to slander a military officer. We should just kick him out. He's despicable." In a clamor of voices, the crowd accused and scolded Dustin. With their preconceived notions, they clearly believed Dylan more than they did Dustin. "Dustin, do you have any proof for claiming that Dylan spiked the wine?" Hector asked. "Exactly. Don't go around making accusations without any proof." Some of the Harmons were indignant. "You want proof? It's simple." Dustin picked up the glass of wine and placed it in front of Dylan. "Since you claim that you didn't spike it, why don't you drink this to prove there's nothing wrong with the wine?" Dylan's face fell. He would make a mess of himself if he drank that. "Why should he? Just because you say so? Who do you think you are?" Kate defended Dylan. "That's right. Who do you think you are? And what right do you have to make me drink it?" Dylan challenged. "Oh, so you dare not drink it then?" Dustin sniggered. "If the wine hasn't been spiked, Dylan, then what's the harm in drinking it?" Natasha had a slight smile on her face. She could tell from his reaction that Dylan had indeed spiked the wine, but Dustin saw through his tricks at once, and that was what gave rise to the conflict between them. "We believe in you, Mr. Harmon. Tea's just a glass of wine. Drink it and show him." "That's right. Prove it to him that you have done no such thing. Put him to shame." "Yes, Dylan, drink it. We're all rooting for you." The crowd began cheering Dylan on, acting like they were all that righteous. The corners of Dylan's lips twitched as he sweated profusely. With so many eyes on him, he'd raise suspicion if he refused to drink the wine, but if he did, he'd lose control over his bowels and make a fool of himself. He'd be in such a terrible mess. Caught in a dilemma, he had no way out of the predicament. He had only intended to teach Dustin a lesson. Who'd have guessed he'd put himself in such a difficult position? All right, let's not cause a scene here." Noticing that something wasn't right, Trent called out to the crowd to defuse the situation. "Today's a special day. Let's not spoil it over some petty issues. Please be seated, everyone. The banquet will start shortly." The crowd quietened down upon hearing his words. Most of them who had their wits around could already guess the truth behind the whole debacle. However, out of respect for the Harmon family, they kept quiet and feigned ignorance. "Consider yourself lucky, you bastard. I'm only letting you off the hook for Uncle Hector's sake, as it's his birthday celebration today." Dylan spat menacingly before he turned and took his seat. He thanked his lucky stars that his Uncle Trent came out at the right moment to smooth things over, sparing him from an embarrassing situation. But despite the circumstances, he still had to gain an upper hand over Dustin. The disturbance was finally brought to a halt by Trent's interference. However, Natasha was left disgruntled. "Dad, Dylan was obviously the one who started it. Are you just going to let it slide? We have more important matters to deal with today. We cannot afford to mess up now," Hector said gravely as he shook his head. Of course, he could tell what had transpired, but at this point, they were banking on Dylan's position to put pressure on Tyler, so he could not tell Dylan off even if he was at fault. At the moment, it was crucial for the family to stand united. That's it. Natasha was extremely displeased. Naturally, she wasn't willing to swallow her anger when her man was being mistreated. "Natasha, let's look at the big picture. Why don't you sit down?" Hector gave her a look. Then, he led the others to sit at the tables allocated for the Harmons. The 10 tables at the very front of the ballroom were designated for the core members of the Harmon family as well as the other bigwigs in the family. The regular guests were relegated to the back. "Darling, I'm sorry for the injustice. I'll definitely find an opportunity for a payback." Natasha said through gritted teeth. It's nothing but a petty issue. Don't worry about me. Go and keep your father company. Dustin smiled lightly. Her saying that was already good enough for him. What, you don't want to sit with me? Natasha raised an eyebrow. No, guests shouldn't sit with the stars of the evening. I'll just sit here. Not to mention, sitting too close to Dylan might invite trouble. Dustin shook his head. The front seats drew too much attention. He didn't like being noticed by so many people. All right. Natasha didn't push him further after he expressed his opinion. After greeting a few of her classmates, she returned to her seat. After she left, Gordon suddenly said out of the blue, Dustin, if I were you, LD apologize to Dylan right now. You can't afford to get on the bad side of a golden child like him. Really? I guess. Dustin couldn't be bothered to entertain the nonsense and gave a half-assed reply. Me. You'll find out soon enough. Gordon chuckled coldly and said nothing more. In his eyes, with that arrogant attitude, Dustin was bound to face consequences sooner or later. Time slowly ticked by, and more guests arrived to join the celebration. The entire ballroom was alive with chatter. Hey, isn't that Mr. Reynolds from the Goldmore Group? I heard he's worth billions and is also the top player in the mining industry. Oh. Even the Emerald Tycoon, Mr. Dane, is here. Look, I think that's Mr. Gills from the Royal Pavilion, also known as the all-powerful Lord of the Underworld. As expected of the Harmons. I didn't expect so many big shots to show up. This is really impressive. Seeing these local celebrities enter the ballroom, Zoe and the others were bubbling with excitement. They never got to see such an extravagant display in their everyday lives. Looking across the room, they were met with the presence of prominent figures in their society, whether it was the filthy rich or the magnates in their respective fields. Any one of them could cause a huge ripple in the outside world. Yet, they had all gathered there. Truly, this was an assembly of the elite and the powerful. Not bad. It seems like our family still holds some influence, Trend said from the front row seats, observing the lively ballroom with a wide grin. Why, of course. When our family throws a birthday party, I can't think of Fagnon who wouldn't respect us enough to not attend, Jacob said proudly. As one of the fabulous five, certain connotations and pride came with it. Trent, Jacob, don't celebrate just yet. With just these people, I'm afraid we won't be able to keep Tyler in check, Hector said indifferently. Uncle Hector, don't worry. With me here, Tyler wouldn't dare act out of line, Dylan said haughtily. That's right. My holds a high position and has the support of the Scarlet Warrior. Even Tyler will have to show him some respect. Jacob laughed. When it came to his son, he had unconditional trust in him. At that moment, a butler leaned close and whispered, Mr. Hector, I just received word that the Grants have begun to make their move. Are they finally coming? Hector sucked in a deep breath. Since we can't hide, then let's meet them head on. We will stick to the plan.